Merry Christmas, you stupid old podcast.
Very good impression.
Oh,
Very
well,
good.
thanks.
Old Jimmy Stewart.
Let's
Oh,
vote.
yeah.
Mike does the whole podcast as Jimmy Stewart.
Oh, gosh. Oh, no. Oh, gee.
At least we're not asking you to sing, so.
I'll lasso the moon for you, Sandy. So here it is. Merry Christmas! Almost. Mariah Carey and Wham have been terrorizing us for weeks. Noddy Holder's got a sore throat, and it's the perfect time to revisit a solid gold festive movie for our last Cinema Classics episode of the year. That's right, for our own little Christmas special, we're diving into the Christmas classic, It's a Wonderful Life. I am your regular host, podcasting's very old George Bailey, Mike Wilson. I promise I'll not do that anymore. And I'm joined by three brilliant guests joining our journey through Bedford Falls, yay, and Potterville, boo. First up, we're not joined by a guardian angel, but we do have an Angela. Welcome, Angela.
Hello. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Yay. You looking forward to talking about this one?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Looking forward to your insights. And second, we don't have a Santa Claus, but we do have a Sandy Claus. Well, back for yet another episode. Welcome back, Sandy.
Ho, ho, ho. Hello. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you too. And again, thanks for coming back for what this must be like the fourth or fifth in a row you've done.
I might be getting addicted, yes.
Well, always good to have you. And last but by certainly no means least, we don't have a Robin, but we do have a Rob. Robert Lunt, welcome back.
Bah humbug. There you go.
You can't be in that mood when you're about to review It's a Wonderful Life. It's a celebration of life, Rob, surely.
Well, I'm channeling my inner Potter. There you go.
I think we have enough people in the world doing that at the moment, but sadly. But no, that's, apologies for the festive intros getting a bit of a stretch there. It did take me a while to think of something that would go with your name, Rob, but I think Robin will suffice on it at this point.
Fair news.
Yeah. So I'm going to start with a thing that I often do when we've got new guests on. Now, I could be wrong about this, but I do believe, Angela, that you've not been on a Cinema Classics episode before.
I think you're absolutely correct there, yes.
Yes, I knew you'd done some cult classics and some regulars, but not a Cinema Classic. So as a new guest, I kind of have to ask you, as I do with all of our new guests, do you have a favorite Cinema Classic movie? And by that, I just mean anything from the dawn of cinema to around 1979-ish.
To Kill a Mockingbird.
Oh, wow. Good choice. Wow. Yeah, I can't really say much to that. That's a fantastic, quite a highbrow choice as well. So what appeals to you about that one in specific?
I think that was one of the first films that introduced my younger self to the fact that there were people out there of different colours, different ways of thinking, because where I grew up, it was basically all white. So then see how people of different colours and different backgrounds were treated. It opened my eyes and made me see, what is wrong with the world out there.
Yeah. And, that we're all one, I suppose, it's quite a good message for this time of year, quite on brand. So, yeah, awesome. Cool. I like that. And, very good choice. Definitely one I think everybody should see at some point, and a very classic film. So, kudos for not going for the usual. Like most people pick 70s movies like Star Wars and stuff, but I like yours better. So, this being a Christmas special, I'm going to extend this a little bit further. And I'm going to go around and ask, basically, what is everybody's favorite Christmas or holiday movie? And do you have any traditions, any ritual films that you have to watch every single year at this time? And Sandy, I'll start with you on this one.
Well, my favorite Christmas tale, more like, is A Christmas Carol, which this,
Okay.
closely parallels. But I'll watch any iteration at all. And I think maybe my favorite iteration has to be um, between Scrooged and Muppets. Both of
Both good
those
choices.
are, yeah, among my favorites, and I do own the classic one, but I don't watch it as much anymore. And then my favorites will cycle, so that's just my favorite right now. But I also love hearing audio versions of it. I'm just really obsessed with that story. It's sci-fi. It's early sci-fi to me. It's time travel. So
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
parallel
it's
universes. So I
definitely
just
super nice.
really, really love it.
Cool. Yeah, it's a good choice, and it's been done so many times. But yeah, the Muppet I think is the definitive version. Although I do love Scrooged as well. So.
I'll even watch the horrible ones, like Girlfriends of Christmas Past. Like, you don't understand how much I love it. Love it, love it. I'll watch anything.
I've never even heard of that one, but I really don't think I want to. Rob, I'll move to you next then quickly on that one. Any favorite kind of festive movies and any rituals you watch each year?
Excuse me. Right, I'm going to play the very toxic male card here now, and basically say Die Hard.
Yay!
Oh,
I was hoping somebody would. Good call.
Nobody's gonna fight you on this.
Oh, thank you very much. So it's like everybody said, it's not. It is a Christmas movie. It's set at Christmas. It's set at Christmas Eve, for God's sake. It's good against evil, right? What more do you want in terms of like a Christmas story? And there's a happy ending. Yeah. How much more Christmassy can you get? And I'd say that the one that is definitely a ritual, because we watch it every Christmas Eve. We have done now probably for about 14, 15 years now, is Muppet's Christmas Carol.
Nice.
Because it's so funny.
Yes.
Michael Caine is like, what am I doing here? So
yeah, I know. I've seen an interview with Michael Caine where he says that he decided he was going to play it like he was just like performing it with any other cast, like it was, as if he was performing with the greatest actors in his generation or whatever. Just
exactly,
take it dead serious, and it works really well.
And it works.
Doesn't matter that the puppets.
You can genuinely tell because he's got a glint in his eye all the way through it, as if say, I'm just enjoying this. This is fun.
Yep. It's very good. Yeah, that's what I have to watch every single year.
They are my two, but I'd say Die Hard is definitively the one sort of like, to be honest, anything with snow in it, right, to me is like a Christmas film, including Empire Strikes Back. Yeah, it's
fair enough.
Lots of snow.
Majority of James Bond films as well from the 70s, they're always in a snowy background or something like that. Yeah, Christmas.
Yeah. Well, we did review Batman Returns, which will be out a couple of weeks before this. So, for a Christmas season movie, which, I think that's a Christmas movie. I'm saying.
I think so.
Again, set at Christmas, there's a Christmas tree, there's snow. It's good versus evil, as you say. So,
Exactly.
Cool. So we're back around to you then, Angela, to ask you the same question. First of all, any sort of holiday favorites, and what rituals do you have, if any, that you watch each year?
Well, I go with any version of A Christmas Carol.
Thanks, Andy.
Yeah, and Die Hard, as has already been mentioned. That is definitely a Christmas film, and I will die on that hill. As for rituals, I remember ever since a kid on the TV, there would always be one of the Star Wars films, the Indiana Jones films, Bond films, and in more recent years, Lord of the Rings films. So I'll watch any and all of those if they're on, no matter how many times I've already seen them.
That's cool. Yeah, there's certain films that I used to watch on the Christmas holidays because they'd always come on TV in this country that aren't necessarily Christmassy, and that's things like Wizard of Oz or Willy Wonka or even like Superman the movie that I associate with Christmas because they were always on telly, even though they're not Christmassy at all. But yeah, no, the ones I've got to watch every year, the Muppet Christmas Carol, and I've mentioned this a few times on our Discord. It's not a good movie, and I'm not going to pretend it is, but it has sentimental value, and it's Santa Claus the movie, if anybody knows that one from the 80s. So, yeah. Moving on then. So, yeah, I'm going to go to how we always start. I kind of talk about the film in question then, which is to go around again and ask everybody's first experiences with the film and the kind of impact that it had on you. Talking about It's a Wonderful Life now, obviously. So, again, we'll mix it up. And Robert, I'll come to you first and ask, do you remember the first time you saw It's a Wonderful Life and what you initially thought?
I think it was around about 1984. Was it 85? I think one or the other. I was off sick from school, and we had a ritual in our house where it's like if you were off sick from school, you had to stay in bed till midday, and then at midday you could come down, right, and go on the couch, right.
Okay, yeah.
And weirdly enough, my brother went, "Oh, if you're off," my brother's like 10 years older than me, so he was like, "Well, if you're off school, watch this film." And for starters, it was black and white, which I didn't appreciate. When I was a kid, I didn't appreciate black and white films. But and I was engrossed, absolutely engrossed from start to finish from it. So that's the first time I can remember watching it. And the impression that it gave me was sort of, it's a good sort of Christmassy feel. It's like that sort of slightly heartwarming, it is heartwarming and all the rest of it. But I was just intrigued all the way through it. So that's what I remember about it.
That's interesting. I wasn't sure how it would hit for like kind of for kids and kind of youths as it were, because I wasn't very young when I first saw it. But it's interesting to note that you were enraptured by it at a very young age, by the sounds of it. So
I think I was about 10 or 11.
Yeah. Okay.
Time. But what you got to remember is that I was brought up on musicals, cowboy films, and Star Wars, basically. So and World War II films. So. Yeah, watching something like this with Jimmy Stewart and all the rest of it, it was like, oh yeah, I recognized it straight away. But at the same time, it was sort of this is different. So because he's not a cowboy and he's not in a war film, it's like, oh, he's just being a normal person.
Yeah, got you. Yeah. Well, I know you've got classic film taste because you were on the Citizen Kane review not long ago. So, 40s black and white classics is a bit of a forte, it seems. Anyway, yes. Moving on to you then, Angela, if you don't mind. Same question. Can you remember the first time you saw this and how it hit you at first?
I'm not entirely sure when I first saw it, but I can definitely say it was in the last 5 years.
Okay.
The reason being is I've worked in retail and various other scenes throughout my career, and it was always finishing when I got home, or it was just starting as I was going off to work. You know, back in the days before we had streaming TV. So I never actually got round to watching the whole of it, but I think it might have been during lockdown. I finally got round to sitting down and watching it the whole way through. And I was a little bit surprised by how bleak it was at times. So the second time I watched it was last night.
Oh, okay. Wow. So that's only the second time you've ever seen it. Okay.
It is, yes. Cool. So I've got a bit more of a better vibe from it this time around. But yes, the first time I was like, oh, this is a bit depressing, isn't it?
I think unless you watch right till the end, it's a very bleak movie. I can see what you mean. There's quite a lot of darkness in it, which I think, you get that in Christmas stories. I mean, The Christmas Carol's quite dark when you think about it as well. So, but again, we'll get into that, I'm sure, when we talk about it. But interesting that you were a lot later when you came to it than Robert was. So, Sandy, moving over to you then. What about you? What was the first time you saw It's a Wonderful Life, and what did you think?
Like Rob, it was somewhere in the 80s when I was younger. But it was because my family had it on the background. I think it was kind of a semi-regular, if not regular, thing for us to watch when we were around the grandparents. And but unlike Rob, after the pretty much all I remembered until I watched it much later was the talking stars in the beginning, and then boom, Clarence is an angel here to help him, see. So I mean that whole part of Jimmy Stewart living his life and him past him being a kid, I just don't even have a recollection of watching that at all. It just didn't interest me. Boo, black and white, 2 thumbs down. I mean, that was how I was growing up too. It was just old and therefore not cool. But I did remember the stars in the beginning, him being a kid and getting boxed in the ears by that pharmacist, and then boom, he's hugging everybody around the Christmas tree. That's pretty much all I remembered of it growing up.
Okay. Yeah, I have to say, I think the first couple of times I watched it, for some reason, that was kind of what stuck in the mind. So I remember being surprised for the last few times that I've watched it, that how little of the movie is actually, like you said, with Clarence coming down to help and the alternate Potterville sequence and stuff. It's like the last 30 minutes out of a 2-hour 10 movie. So it's surprising how little of the film that actually takes up, because that is the thing that sticks in your brain, or it is with me anyway. That's what stuck in the brain, was that idea in much the same way. But I do think the film earns all of its extended runtime and all of the things that lead up to it. It's kind of all important, and I don't think there's a missed beat. But again, I'm sure we'll get into it, because I know some people complain about the pacing of it and that it doesn't need the full hour of George Bailey's life story, and I think it does. But again, we'll ask that when we come to talk about the writing. But,
it's one of those things. I think it does, because the bit that sticks in my mind is that it gives you an element of history as well.
Yeah.
So it gives you sort of like the 1920s crash.
Yes.
And what that meant to people. And equally, also what it meant was sort of, basically, it's building loans. It's a building society at the end of the day. And it's like, yeah, banks aren't interested in building houses, but that's the whole point behind a building society, was creating revenue to build houses, which nobody got. So it's sort of it's in its own little way. It's an element of like a bit of a history thing as well, for anybody that's sort of rather than watching a documentary, you can watch this instead.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And I mean, although it does kind of seem to fast forward past it, it does touch on, even the war happening and what happened when people went to war, and what the women were doing, what George was able to do because he was declared, not fit to go because of his ear, etc. So it's all in there. As you said, it is a little bit of a mini history lesson. But I'm sure I'll get into it more. As I say, I think I've got it in my conclusion as well, that I also think it's necessary to show you the importance of why George is so stubbornly holding on to the building and loan, and what it means, and all the various people that he's helped that will become important at the end of the movie. So I think that's why you kind of need that there. But again, I'll talk about that when we come to it in a little bit. But I did want to mention, to ask you, Sandy, you mentioned something on our Discord about it took you a long time to find the unabridged version of It's a Wonderful Life. I've never seen an abridged version of it anywhere. What's this about?
I know. So when you search it on Prime here, that's the only version that comes up. And I did notice some Reddit posts from last year of the same thing. People got bamboozled into watching the abridged version. And what it skips is extremely important, and it makes no sense to anyone, that it skips from when Clarence and George are drying their clothes and talking, he's trying to convince him that, the importance of his life and why he shouldn't end it. And it skips straight to him looking crazed, running through the streets and going home. It skips the whole, this would have been everybody's life without you part, which is just insane.
That's the majority of the film.
And so I had to Google like 3 different things, and finally found that on this free app, legal app called Fossum, that I could watch it on there. But I had to watch it with commercials, and it was one of these smaller apps. So it's the same commercial 6 times in a row.
Oh my God.
But I suffered through all of that and still enjoyed my time with the movie.
That's cool. I'm surprised you haven't got a copy of it because it's one of those that's always. I like Angela. I worked in retail for years. It's one of the ones that was always on the as soon as you had to put out the seasonal holiday favorites. It's a Wonderful Life was always front and center there on the rack of Christmas movies, reduced prices, and whatever else. So I think everybody in this country owns a copy of it because I must have sold hundreds over the years when I was working in the retail industry. And I've got to say for our faithful viewers who are going to, want to take a drink that yes, I do own it on 4K, and that's how I watched it. But I have to say this is I only mention it if it's it's an impressive looking upgrade. But yeah, the 4K of It's a Wonderful Life is gorgeous, especially for a 1940s black and white film. It looks like home video footage that was taken yesterday. You know what I mean? But yeah,
I mean, I do have the George C. Scott version of A Christmas Carol, so I should get this to go with it.
I would recommend buying it to have it, especially in this day and age, because I mean, you can never trust streaming, really, can you? Especially when there's multiple versions and things.
And that leads me to people's thoughts, why would they cut that? And there was, it did feel a bit conspiratorial, but one of the thoughts was they cut it because they didn't want everybody to see the, unhappy results of capitalism or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, they could have.
But
just
why
filmed
else
America.
would you cut that?
Just film America in 2025 and be like, this is what it looks like, everyone, if Potter wins. But anyway, yeah, let's not get too political. It's Christmas, everyone. But no, I see what you're saying, and it's weird, but I do think, it's one of those things where I never knew there was an abridged version, but I never trusted streaming and stuff for this one because I know there's lots of colorized versions of it, and they're all terrible, and I don't think you need to watch them colorized. And if that's your thing, fair enough. I'm not going to be here to insult or whatever, but yeah, please, if you have the chance,
we will insult you if you watch the abridged version.
Well, yeah, because that's the heart of the movie just sliced out of it, man. It
was everybody's complaint, and it was just so hard to find. But to its credit, at least it does clearly advertise it's the abridged version, so that stopped me in my tracks right there before. Yeah.
I shouldn't be surprised it's a 2 hour 10 film, and I know that that's rare, especially for older movies. So I can see why they would do a cut version of it. But yeah, bizarre choice. But no, as I say, I know that there's lots of color versions, and a lot of the home video releases and stuff that I sold, DVDs and stuff, have colorized versions on. Just chuck them in the bin. They're not good. You just watch it in black and white. That's how it came. That's how it was in the 40s. And like I said, the 4K upgraded to black and white version is just so good anyway. It looked incredible. So enjoy. So before we go any further, I'm going to dive into a little tiny behind the scenes section that I have for this film. I don't have much because I didn't want to pile us with information on a Christmas special, essentially. So I tried to keep to just a few interesting tidbits. So I'll jump in by saying It's a Wonderful Life is a 1946 American Christmas fantasy drama film directed and produced by Frank Capra. We'll get talking about him a bit later. It's based on the short story and booklet called The Greatest Gift, self-published by Philip Van Doren Stern in 1943, which itself is loosely based on the 1843 Charles Dickens novella A Christmas Carol, which has come up once or twice already this episode. The film stars James Stewart as George Bailey, a man who's given up his personal dreams to help others in his community, and whose thoughts of suicide on Christmas Eve bring about the intervention of his guardian angel Clarence, who shows George all the lives he touched and what the world would be like if he'd not existed. The film's copyright in the US expired in 1974 following a lack of renewal, and it entered the public domain, regularly being shown on television, at which point it became a Christmas classic. This came as a welcome surprise to Frank Capra. He said, "It's the damnedest thing I've ever seen," he told the Wall Street Journal in 1984. "The film has a life of its own now, and I can look at it like I had nothing to do with it. I'm like a parent whose kid grows up to be president. I'm proud, but it's the kid who did the work. I didn't even think of it as a Christmas story when I first ran across it. I just liked the idea." There are some people in Seneca Falls, New York, who believe Capra modeled Bedford Falls after the town, following a visit in 1945. They have an annual It's a Wonderful Life festival on the second week in December. On December the 10th, 2010, the It's a Wonderful Life Museum opened there, with Carolyn Grimes, who played Zuzu in the movie, cutting the ribbon. However, film historian Janine Bassinger has said that no evidence exists for this claim, stating that doesn't mean it isn't true, but no one's ever going to prove it. She further asserted that Capra always described Bedford Falls as an every town. Philip Van Doren Stern said in a 1946 interview, "Incidentally, the movie takes place in Westchester County. Actually, the town I had in mind was California, New Jersey. Sorry. The historic Iron Bridge in California is similar to the bridge that George Bailey considers jumping from in the movie." So argue amongst yourselves, American don't. It's up to you, I guess. In the scene, I love this bit. In the scene where Uncle Billy gets drunk at Harry's and Ruth's party and staggers away, a crash is heard off screen. Actor Thomas Mitchell, playing Uncle Billy, yells, I'm all right, implying that Billy had knocked into some trash cans or something. A technician had actually knocked over some equipment. Capra left in Mitchell's impromptu ad-lib and rewarded the technician with $10, or the equivalent of about $140 nowadays, thanking him for his, quote, sound improvement. I had no idea about that, and I love that. And now that I know that, when I watched that scene when it came up, I could kind of see James Stewart almost breaking as he smiles at the kind of impromptu ad lib, and I was like, "That is beautiful. I love that."
And that
story.
ad lib's timing was really quick witted.
So good, yeah, brilliant. It's commonly believed, you've probably heard this, that the characters of Bert and Ernie on Sesame Street were named after Bert the cop and Ernie the cab driver. However, according to producer John Stone, the shared names are merely a coincidence. Despite this, the 1996 holiday special Elmo Saves Christmas, talking of classics, references... I know, right?
Is that the thing? No.
Yeah, that film references the rumor during a scene where Bert and Ernie walk by a TV set that's playing the movie, and the pair are surprised by the line, Bert, Ernie, what's the matter with you two guys? You were here on my wedding night. Anyway, I can't say I've seen that classic, but anyway, oh, this is so weird. This perhaps feeds into what you were saying, Sandy. On May the 26th, 1947, the FBI issued a memo stating, with regard to the picture It's a Wonderful Life, name redacted, stated in substance that the film represented rather obvious attempts to discredit bankers by casting Lionel Barrymore as a Scrooge type so that he'd be the most hated man in the picture. This is a common trick used by communists. In addition, name redacted, stated that in his opinion, this picture deliberately maligned the upper class, attempting to show the people who had money were mean and despicable characters. Film historian Andrew Saris observed it as curious that the censors never noticed that the villainous Mr. Potter gets away with robbery without being caught or punished in any way. So, yeah, that didn't come up in their criticism. Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be those people, isn't there? You know, boo, this film's woke. I tell you.
And it's interesting because Frank Capra used to make videos for the U.S. military, propaganda videos in favor of the U.S. military. And even one could argue it was glamorized in this film as well. You know, you go away to war, you come back a hero. And
exactly.
So that's interesting that they, you know, had that criticism of him. And
yeah, it's sadly timeless. Like I said, we're seeing it now. You could input any other names as the kind of capitalist people that would be like, "Ooh, boo! They're calling us billionaires names and stuff. How dare they?" Yeah, the more things change, the more they stay the same. But yeah, just to finish off the few little things that I've got left, the angelic figures depicted at the beginning of the film, as you can see on Sandy's picture, is actually an image of Stefan's quintet, a group of 5 interacting galaxies. And finally, Jimmy the Raven, Uncle Billy's pet, appeared in You Can't Take It With You and every subsequent Frank Capra film. Think of a mascot. Didn't know that. So there you go. Look out for the Raven whenever it appears in a Frank Capra movie, I guess. So, yeah, anything there surprising apart from the whole boo, it's a communist movie stuff? Anything anybody wants to shout out? Or
I actually didn't know that about the animals either. And I thought it was just a kind of weird aside that this character was just basically like Snow White with all the animals. And it's never explained, really, is it?
No. No, that's I can see. I noticed the Raven is kind of the ongoing pet, but no, the rest of it, I have no idea why.
I love that though, because it didn't need explaining. So I love that.
No, exactly. I mean, Uncle Billy's just the typical quote unquote eccentric, but that's the point, isn't it? When you get to the alternative Pottersville, it's like he's in the insane asylum. Well, of course he is. He's slightly eccentric, so that's naturally what would happen in the 40s, I suppose. Sadly, but, yeah. What about you, Angela? Anything stand out from that for you?
I think the parallels of what you were saying, you know, how billionaires or millionaires, as they probably were back then, are portrayed. It's very timely with society as it is now. So yeah. I could totally see a certain person in the White House sort of outlawing this film because they've already started with books. I'm sure movies are next. And this would be up there.
I'm certain it's not one that a certain social media owner is going to be particularly portraying as great this year either. Speaking of which, but like I said, it's Christmas. We're not going to get too negative.
Maybe we should ask Brock. What does
hey Grok, what's the theme of It's a
Wonderful Life? And if Grok comes back with the answer, there it is. There it is.
I'd rather just watch it and make my own mind up, to be honest. But that's just me. Right. We'll dive into the different sections. And as I say, if you're new to us, just follow us along. We always tend to break it into sections for my notes, but we can always follow the conversation. It's pretty loosey-goosey and hopefully not too bad to listen to. So starting with the writing and the plot, I have a few questions that I'll come to, but I did want to start by letting you know bits and pieces. First of all, Capra described the film's theme as the individual's belief in himself and said that he made it to combat a modern trend toward atheism. A spate of movies appeared just after the end of the Second World War, including It's a Wonderful Life, perhaps tapping into so many people's experience of loss of loved ones and offering a kind of consolation. And as Sandy mentioned, both Capra and James Stewart had served during the war, and Capra did even make the Why We Fight propaganda films. Steven Spielberg once said about the film, It's a Wonderful Life shows that every human being on this earth matters, and that's a very powerful message. So, I think it's a theme that's been reused many, many times since in various things, TV shows, movies, etc., etc. Do you guys feel that's the kind of central theme of this is the impact of one person and what one life can do? And is that something you were aware of when you first saw it at a young age? And Sandy, I'll ask you this first.
I'm definitely not something I was aware of at a young age, but as an adult, not only, that every person does have an impact on those around them. It can be, a positive or negative, but also just how choices and regret, a good way to handle regrets is knowing that you're exactly where you are supposed to be in life. Those paths untraveled, as much as traveling tugged at George's heart his whole life, but not getting to do that, and even later being tempted with the ability to do that, and just making those choices to always put others first and to care about others, I think is more central even to just the fact that everybody matters, which is also extremely important, obviously.
Yeah, that's fair enough. What about you, Angela? I'll ask you next. What do you think about this theme of one person mattering? Do you think that's the central kind of idea of the film, or is that a bit overly sentimental?
No, I think that hits the nail right on the head. I sort of get into reading things about quantum string theory, things like that, the butterfly effect. And it is true that everything that we do or say has a direct impact on everybody around us, and it has a ripple effect further out. So yes, whether somebody is there or not does make a big difference, even if you can't see it.
Yeah, I like that about the movie, and I love that it deals with it in bigger ways in terms of, like I said, showing the people that George helps out via the building and loan. But even, if you were younger, I would imagine watching this, and you'd probably have to, let me know if this is the case, Rob. I think for a young kid, it's kind of summed up perfectly in that scene where Clarence just says, well, everyone on the transport died because Harry wasn't there to save them, and you weren't there to save him when you were a kid. So, that was the domino effect, more or less. And I was like, that sums it up perfectly for any kid who's having trouble understanding. Is like, you did this thing that was just a nice, good thing that you wouldn't have even thought about, and yet it was so important that it saved lives down the road. And was that something you picked up on, Rob, when you watched it at a young age?
I can't remember, to be honest.
Can't remember. Fair enough.
But no, I think that type of thing does come through. As I said, I was brought up on World War II movies and stuff like that. So, which are all in itself were coming back to the theme of sort of propaganda, etc., of Capra. But it does put that into your head where it's like, well, actually, everybody has a role to play. You might not think it, you might not want to think it, but everybody has something to do. Everybody has the right of something to do in this world, and what this draws out is that, you know, the character all the way through is making sacrifices every time. Yeah, he makes a sacrifice to say, you know, to save his brother. He makes a sacrifice again at the chemist, and he gets beaten up for, you know, doing the right thing. And so and it's his entire. I mean, if you think about it, you know, when's life going to cut this guy a break? You know?
Yeah, but at the same time, it's kind of like it's self-inflicted, because, as you say, he's the one that decides.
Oh
to
yeah,
do all these
he's
things
always making that choice to do the right thing.
Yeah,
but at the same time, it's just like, as a film, it is. You know, as people said, negative. Oh, hang on a minute. The last 5 minutes where they're all singing "Come All Ye Faithful." It's the thing.
No, I mean, that has always bugged me from the very first time I watched this movie, is that the Potter getting away with taking that money. Like, he's already got more money than, you know, he knows what to do with, as they say, and he just takes this 8,000 and gets away with it. And yes, okay, everybody comes to George's aid and saves them with their own money and everything, great, but like, the bad guy just gets away with literal robbery, and nobody, like I said, there's no consequences for it. And man, it really bugged me. Which that reminds me, by the way, I didn't say how I first saw this movie. Partly because I'm not 100% sure. I know that it was when I was at university, but I can't remember if it was one that we watched in like class, so to speak, because we watched a lot of like 1940s black and white type movies that I've kind of associated with that now, that I kind of made a mental note of, oh, I like this, I'll have to own a copy someday or see it again, or if it was just because we were watching all those that I was like, oh, this is a good time to watch It's a Wonderful Life, because it's always mentioned every Christmas. So I can't 100% remember, but I do know that it was when I was at university, so I was in my like early 20s, so I wasn't exactly a youth when I saw it. You know, I think you're probably the only one, Robert, that saw it really young, unfortunately. So, but yeah, I can remember, like I said, it's weird how in my memory those first couple of times, that whole extended life of George Bailey thing just didn't feel that long, and it kind of just flowed nicely. And yeah, that wasn't really the thing that I took away, was all the negativity and stuff. You know what I mean? But yeah, anyway, so the next question then related to kind of that, and I'll kind of just throw it open, see if anyone wants to jump in with this. Do you think the film then is advocating for karma, or for like the patience to wait for karma to do its thing? Like, George does the right thing, and as you said, it's kind of punishment. Reward, great, you did the right thing the whole time. So is that saying, you know, keep going and keep being good, or is there, you know, a degree of propaganda in that as well about, you know, you've got to stay on the good path, or, you know, it's even, you know, Christian doctrine or whatever, as we're talking about Christmas, you know, good list, bad list, etc. So yeah, anyone want to tackle that one?
I think it's sorry, go ahead, Sandy.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I didn't think of it as karmic, in that if you do bad things will happen. If you do good things will happen. But rather more adjusting what you feel is a good thing or a bad thing. Like, I think like he could have made different choices, and arguably his life might have turned out better. Maybe he did go to college, maybe he did get in on that plastics thing, and he could have been really stinking rich, and maybe he married this other woman and had a really wonderful family as well, not knowing what he gave up, right? Because that didn't happen. So I thought of it more just like seeing the difference you made and appreciating that outcome because of your choices, good or bad, good and bad. Because there were times when George did choose, you know, himself and what he wanted, but that did get harder and harder to do, to where, yeah, that's just my thought on it.
Okay, yeah. What were you going to say then, Angela, about that?
I was going to say, I think it's basically a message to say, no matter how dark, how hard things get, that inevitably that there will be light at the end of the tunnel. You know, if you keep going long enough, things will sort themselves out. You know,
really well put. Yeah,
just to keep going, and you know, you can win out in the end if you persevere.
Yes. And I think it's also about, maybe this is just my interpretation, but I think it's also about appreciating what you have got, because there is a degree of that in George recognizing, okay, it's a very extreme version. Oh, it doesn't matter if I'm going to jail because I've got this beautiful family and whatever else, and I should be grateful for what I've got. But yeah. What about you, Rob? Did you think any of that was kind of a message that came through about karma and about, appreciating the things that you have got and the choices you have made?
No, not.
Okay.
So it's an interesting question, and throughout the years of watching it, I've often asked myself, well, what is the story really getting at? What is it?
Mm-hmm.
What's the hidden meaning? Because all films these days, all films are supposed to have like a hidden meaning. It's like, well, actually, no. I think this is just telling a story of this guy's made a sacrifice, but doesn't realize his value, and what they've achieved and stuff like that. Is there a hidden meaning? No, I think it's just telling a story of that, saying, look, everybody has value, everybody has a thing to play, and this is the story around it. But if Capra's turned around and said, no, this is the real reason, I'd be like, all right, sorry, I'm wrong. Like films.
No, I hear you. And like I said, that's why I kind of asked the question, is that I think there's a couple of things that you could read in different ways, perhaps, from the film, which all ultimately, I think, dovetail into the final ultimate message, which is always going to be the same. The kind of, oh, I do matter, and look at all of this greatness, and we'll all gather around, as you say, and sing Christmas carols, and it's a happy ending. So either way, but yeah. So the last kind of question, kind of feeding into all that I was going to ask about the writing and stuff, is, we've kind of talked a little bit about it, but is the film does it serve as almost propaganda towards people about the idea of, oh, you've got to serve your community, and the real kind of emotional anchor in your life will be family. You've got to marry, settle down, and have kids, and that's what home really means, helping the community spirit and everything. And I mean, is there a propaganda element to that, or do you think that's just a sweet, wholesome, a message to say, appreciate that if you do it? And again, Robert, I'll come to you. Why not? Because you kind of started us off on that one a little bit.
Yeah, I'd like to think not. So 40. So if you think about it in terms of context, right? 47 was like 2 years after World War II. Everybody was still kind of working out. The Allies were still trying to carve up Europe. They still had a lot of concerns about Japan and stuff like that. The sort of the scare tactics of, well, not even scare tactics. That was the reality. That's how people saw it, of communism and Russia. It was there, but it hadn't really kicked in yet. So I think it was more of along the lines of, thinking it through now. And when I say now, the last couple of minutes, you could probably say, yes, it is about saying everybody has something to play, welcome people back. We now have peace and stuff like that. Any other additional, thing in there at this stage, I'd like to think no. I'd just like to think it is a story about, hope and integrity and stuff like that, as opposed to just sort of there's millions of hidden meanings behind it. We're trying to do propaganda. We're trying to do this, trying to do that, because McCarthyism and all the rest of it hadn't really kicked in till, correct me if I'm wrong, until very early 1950s and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I think so. Yeah. No, I kind of agree with you. I could see why people would say that, and that it could serve as that particular type of propaganda, if people wanted it to. But I don't think that was the intention, especially considering, like I said, how, pro-capitalism and pro their country, Capra and James Stewart and the like were, everybody making this film were. I think it was just, as you say, probably more a reaction to the fact that we've just come out of the war, and, the home front trying to rebuild that and look out for each other because we're all Americans after all, kind of thing. Yeah. And, it's more of a patriotic jingoistic thing, as opposed to, different wealth patterns attacking each other kind of thing. And again, I think that the film kind of makes that clear in the line where Uncle Billy's talking to Potter just before he gets away with stealing the money. And, Potter's having to go at, George, I noticed, that coward didn't go to war. And he was like, well, some people had to stay here. Not every heel was in Germany or Japan, And I'm like, they're literally comparing this guy to Nazis. So, it couldn't really be clearer of like, there's still a threat at home that you've got to look out for, these jerks. Yeah. What about you, Angela? Did you appreciate the kind of community spirit type feel of the family message of the film, or was it a little bit too sentimental or melodramatic, perhaps?
I think, like you two have just been saying, given the context that it was being made immediately after the Second World War, a lot of families, not necessarily in America, but certainly in Europe, had been decimated.
Yes.
So I think the message was not just for America, but for the rest of the world. It's like, come on, we've got to try and rebuild the populations, get everybody back together, keep that community spirit going on that they had during the war to like rebuild everything, all the bond buildings. So it was just, I think, a way of promoting the family as a wholesome ideal.
Yeah. To that end, do you think George is fair to his family? I think there's a couple of moments where, for me, he just gets a little bit uncomfortably mean until he actually realizes what he's got. Is that something that you kind of are a little uncomfortable with, or do you just think it's kind of... Go ahead.
I think quite a lot of it still shows the misogyny of that era.
Right.
Which is not to say that there isn't misogyny now, because there is. But the way, the way he talks to Mary and shakes her, things like that, when he's getting angry and frustrated.
Yeah.
The way he's throwing things about or wanting to throw things about in front of the kids, it's just like, this is uncomfortable.
Yeah, a little. I think nowadays, I mean, it never goes too far that I think it becomes like irredeemable. And I think George's frustrations are all kind of understandable, but I still don't love how the kind of mean streak that he gets when on slight occasions when his things aren't going his way or he doesn't get to achieve his dreams, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, or even when he's just feeling playful, when they fall into the swimming pool and then she's there in the bathrobe and he steps on the belt. And then, she ends up being, I presume, naked in that bush. And he just keeps refusing to give her the robe.
Yeah, I think that's kind of played more for laughs, though. I think like the impetus of that scene is more that he's kind of, enjoying the playfulness and she's perhaps the same. And then something happens, as it typically does in the film, because he's the unluckiest man ever. And so, here's your robe. Never mind. We were having our little foreplay, but screw it. I've now got somewhere more important to be. George, for God's sake. Just like at the house later when he's like, I don't even know why I wanted to come here. What a waste of time. And she gets so frustrated and smashes the record and everything because he's absolutely killing the mood. He just doesn't seem to get it throughout the movie. And it's weird that you see that kind of thing and never see actually what drew Mary to him. He's not a particularly romantic guy for her. Well, there are moments, I guess. There's some nice things, as you said, when they're kind of at the prom party and the whole lasso the moon thing and everything's quite sweet. So. But there are times when I'm like, geez, what does she see?
He is very aloof from the beginning when the other girl asked to be helped down from the stool and he's all, help you down. Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. But no, I think there is a sweet romance in here that I do kind of like for the time, but there are some things that are definitely of the time. And I've got to say, in terms of the misogyny, the thing that I absolutely hate is the idea that, that the alternate world happens and everything's negative, and Mary's worst consequence is, she's an old spinster maid librarian type. Oh, for God's sake. I mean, I know it was the 40s, but geez, the worst possible thing happened to her. She's single. Ooh, come on, man.
Like she has brown hair, but apart from that, she's really, really good looking and quite tall and elegant and stuff like that. No, she's a spinster wearing glasses.
Don't be ridiculous. She's hideous. She's wearing glasses and plain covered overalls. What are you talking about? Jeez.
I really feel there is a propagandist element in it. Capra and Jimmy Stewart have both said it's their favorite film they've ever done. And before it won awards, it did actually fail at the box office. And even at that time, they were still just steadfast. This was the film they'd ever done. And Capra had said he, was inspired and really held close to this idea that every individual is important. That's why he wanted to make this film, getting it from a story he had received in the mail. But the part about the banks and how if they had their way, if this man who valued profit over people had his way, it would just be the downfall of this town and their way of life. And I do think that element right there was certainly a message. I happen to believe it too, right? It's good for most of us. It's certainly understandable. And, we can look back now and say it was prophetic, but in actuality, it's something everyone should have realized. Everyone realized way back then during the Great Depression why it hit everybody so hard and how many people were taken advantage of. And then there's this guy who, when you look back at his monologue there in the bank, talking about how we have to stick together, we have to stand together against something like this. And then, with the exception of that first man who wanted his whole $262, everybody else did. And I think, and they were all the better for it. So there certainly is both here. It's delivered with a heartfelt tone and those important elements of every individual being important, not just George, but me, you, Martini, everybody, right? And that's certainly not. But when you think about it in this respect, every film is propagandist, right? Every film's selling you a message.
Oh yeah, I mean certainly to an extent, but I think, like I said, I don't think it's necessarily trying to big up one particular, whether it be capitalism or communism, one thing over the other. I think it's literally more, as I said, trying to give everybody the level of importance and to say, like I said, every life matters. Don't throw it away. It's all a gift, and you might not even realize how much good you're doing in your community or your little small town. And some people would argue it romanticizes it a little bit, the kind of small town life. But I mean, you could argue it's also quite realistic in the way that it kind of hits George and the limitations that it gives to him. Although ultimately, like I said, it's his choice to do all of these things because he's the kind of selfless hero. That's the nature of this type of story anyway. But no, I mean, you could argue, like I said, it's quite a communist idea when he's going around saying, that's not how this place works. Your money's held up in this person's house, which is then held up in this other person and this other. And it's not like we've got a big safe somewhere with your money in. It's distributed amongst everyone. But I think, like I said, that's more speaking to we're all helping each other out. We're all doing our part. Like a lot of those kind of war type propaganda stories, I'm doing my part kind of thing. And I love all of those scenes where it actually shows that, the buildings, the savings and loan is important and what it's doing, and where it shows you like the Martinis getting their first house and how, I think that scene's very important, how kind of happy they are. And, I can't believe I own my own house, and doing the whole, here's bread, your life always have flavor, etc., and doing the homecoming and seeing that is an important thing. He's helping people out, or even the scenes where he's helping Violet. He's helping Violet, the lady, to kind of get herself together, and it shows he'll help anybody out, or it's more. And that's the last thing I'll ask about the writing, is that how impactful is the final reveal, and do you think it's clear enough that ultimately what it's saying is that the real treasure is George's friends and family? Now, I know there's a line saying that, when his brother says, my brother, the richest man in town, which always gets me every time. But do you think that message really hits home, and does it work for you? Angela, I'll ask you that first.
Well, just going slightly back to the previous point about messages, hidden or otherwise. I don't know if any of you have spotted it, but in the bit between them getting married and then going to the building society where everybody's crowded outside, there is a sign on the wall. I don't know if it's an embroidery or something that says, all you can take with you is that which you have given away.
I haven't noticed that, but that's very interesting. Yeah, that's
spotted
probably
it
very deliberate set design.
I've just got it playing as I usually do when we're doing podcast film on in the back.
Cool.
I spotted that. I thought, that's not necessarily talking about money. It's talking about love and compassion. And basically what you take from this life is what you give.
Oh, definitely. It's an interesting time to put it in the movie as well, when it's depicting the kind of Wall Street crash and the effects of, as you said, the Great Depression and that kind of wild panic that everyone was clutching to their money. As you said, like that first greedy guy that they show you, it's like, I want my full money. And it's interesting that, like you said, it shows it at that scene of like, well, there's other things that's more important. You got to help each other out, kind of arguably that is the message. But yeah, no, that's very interesting. Thanks for bringing that up. And he said, I'm sure the set design was very deliberate, especially in those days. But yeah, so what about you, Robert? Did you appreciate that? Does it get you sentimental at the very end there?
Yeah, because it builds up all the way through, and it's like, is he going to be all right or not? And then the town coming together, and as you said, it's like all the people that he's helped throughout his lifetime all come back to repay that favor.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So it's all there. It sort of squares it away very, very nicely, and then the very cutesy line at the end as the little bells ringing on the tree, and it's like when you hear a bell ring, an angel gets its wings, and it's like, yep, he's the Clarence has finally got his wings after so many attempts to try. Yeah. And maybe Clarence is kind of got a shared, semi-shared history with the main character, in that he's tried to get his wings over and over again and has never managed to achieve it.
Oh yeah.
And the same with the lead characters. Now finally, he can rest. He's the $8,000 has now been sort of, so to speak, recovered. It can now be deposited with all those additional money that's coming in, and his mate Hee-Haw giving him like $20,000. It's like, whoa, right, that's it. You could retire now, mate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it just shows, like you said, it's the importance of what he's done for everyone else, kind of coming back to him. No, that's an interesting point about Clarence. Sorry, Sandy, you were saying.
And that Clarence was thanking him instead of the other way around. Like, this is just something else good George did by providing this opportunity for Clarence to get his wings.
Yeah.
And that
absolutely.
did actually resonate with me when I was little. I am remembering now that part about, every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings. I would find myself ringing bells on purpose, hoping that it helped an angel would
go around saying, I do believe in fairies. I do.
Yeah.
I was just thinking that, yeah. Oh, bless you. But no, that's fair enough. But I think it's the bit when he opens the book that really breaks me. That I'm emotional throughout, but it's that bit. I don't know why, with the kind of message of thanks for the wings, etc. That I really appreciated at the very end. But yeah, we never did actually ask you, Angela. Do you appreciate that ending, the kind of emotional thing, and the ultimate message of, oh well, you had the treasure all along, kind of thing?
I don't think I'm an overly emotional person myself, but it is heartwarming. I'll say it that much. That both George and Clarence get, a good ending, get the outcome they were looking at getting. So George finally is happy. Clarence has got his wings.
Yes, exactly.
That is something wonderful to see, and hopefully we can all aspire to as well. Yeah,
it's interesting that just thinking about it there as well, Robert, your point about like Clarence and George's similarities, even at the start of the film, it's perhaps bringing that up of like when it says, not that I'm saying George is an idiot, but that's, Clarence can't get out of his own way because he's a bit of a fool, but he has the kind of soul or the innocence, something like that, of a child, the faith of a child. And perhaps that's what it's saying, oh, well, George Bailey's ultimately got a good soul, just like Clarence, and so they'll help each other out, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, anyway, moving on to the direction, then just a couple of things, like I said, I wanted to kind of talk about, and then we can ask just a couple of questions about that. So there were some things that were groundbreaking about the film, the actual direction by Frank Capra. First of all, the way that it mixed wholesome Americana with darker psychological territory, as we've kind of talked about. The film does dip into despair, mental health, financial panic, and existential crisis, a lot more openly than most 1940s quote-unquote family films. So yeah, that's in terms of the kind of overall plot of it. In terms of the actual, physical direction, the snow sequence was one of the more realistic for the time. Capra pushed for a more immersive, naturalistic approach with the then new idea of mixing foam and soap, which allowed for more dynamic movement and emotional expression in the scene. And the other thing is the acting, naturalistic performances by like James Stewart, his intensity, and the stripped back style that helped everyone kind of seem a bit quieter, more emotionally raw than a lot of the acting of the era, which again we've talked about. I think when we talk about films that were very well regarded classics, even of the 40s and stuff, there's a very over the top acting style that comes off almost as overacting nowadays, which I think this film definitely does not suffer from. It seems a lot more realistic and naturalistic. So yeah, does anything there that you guys would disagree with, or do you wanted to kind of mention that you agree strongly with, or think emphasize a point in the film that shows that?
I think the lack of overacting was something I definitely noticed, and that is, I think, what makes this film more of a living, breathing classic today because of that. And I did notice that, and I was curious about that actually. So hearing you say that definitely, marries my idea of that with reality, that it was purposeful. So that's really neat.
Definitely. As I was reading, I haven't seen all Frank Capra's films, but I've read it's very much his style. Is character first, big emotional swings, but keeping it grounded, and sentimentality. I mean, his sentimental style that some would argue helps the film, and some might not like because it's a bit saccharine. So what about you, Robert? Anything from there that you wanted to mention the standout?
I think no, not really. Again, I think it kind of brings it alive that you remind yourself that it was produced and written in 1947, and yet it does have a very sort of modern day naturalistic style about it.
Yeah.
If it was very, yes, you can tell. Yeah, it's a black and white film. It has all the sort of callbacks that has, but at the same time, in terms of the acting that's in it, how it's being played out and stuff like that, does have a very modern feel to it, at least from the sort of 1980s onwards.
For sure.
Let's say, it's that bit of sort of. I'm going to say it's going to be a strange way of bringing something in, but like in Aliens, where you've got the discussion between Ripley and Burke in terms of, you don't see that, you don't see the aliens shafting themselves over for a profit margin, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
and it's that naturalistic dialogue of those quieter elements that you can, that was definitely from the 80s, that you can see in this particular film, the stylization of this film.
Definitely,
which you could almost say is, they'd go on about Citizen Kane being very sort of, wow, it was really ahead of its time. I would argue that actually, It's a Wonderful Life is more ahead of its time at that point, because it wasn't trying to say a core political message or anything like that from the 1950s. It wasn't a film, it wasn't a propaganda film that you got sort of like from the 1940s because of the war. It was a very simplistic, natural film in how it came across. And you could probably, as Sonny pointed out, it was actually a flop when it first came out.
Oh yeah.
When it was in the cinemas in 1947, it was actually a flop, and I could kind of understand why as well, because it wasn't a big love story, it wasn't biblical, it wasn't a war story. It was just a normal guy trying to live his life, trying to make the most of it. So which is a very modern feel.
I think it's also, and if I may postulate, because I don't know this, I think it might also be the fact that there's not really that much escapism in the movie. As you said, until the very end, it feels like a lot of like, oh my God, these are the stresses I've got in life. I don't need to see them on screen kind of thing. So what makes this film
go, oh God, this is just like my life.
Yeah, what I was just asking. So, what makes this film kind of? Because I don't think that it hurts this film in that same way. I don't watch it and think, oh, this is just depressing and bleak. And so how is this different from like the melodramas of the 40s, things like Mildred Pierce and stuff, the kitchen sink dramas? What makes it stand out and make it more watchable, if anything?
There is a phrase called, when we're talking about Capra films and the 30s, the films he made in the 30s, it's called Capra's America. In that it was always an idealized version. The people in this town who did make sacrifices to keep the building and loan open. And it's always, there's always somebody to stand up against the corruption.
Oh, yeah.
And I think in that way, I mean, some have even said that 1930s America never existed. It actually, Capra's America existed, I think was something I had read. And so, it was idealized in many ways, and that, all of these people were actually getting homes, and there was somebody to help them achieve the American dream, when in reality, not many communities had that luck.
I see. Yeah. So do you think that's what kind of makes it more watchable, is the kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? The aspirational element of it, of kind of like, well, things are going right for the community, even though they're not necessarily for George.
Because they have their hero. Yeah. Because they have their Superman, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. That kind of occurred to me as well. That there's kind of a weird sort of, like you said, kind of selfless heroism to George that is quite almost superhero-esque, of like, oh, you watch it, you want to aspire to be this type of person for your community and help everybody out. And so what about you, Angela? Do you appreciate this a little bit more than your kind of slice of life melodramas, and what kind of makes it stand out to you a bit more than that?
Yeah, I'm not one for watching soap operas. I did as a kid because everybody did, but these days the closest I get to a soap opera is The Walking Dead.
Some would argue that's worse.
But yeah, this does, this film, these characters, they could be your next door neighbor if you lived in America, but they are relatable characters, and the situations they find themselves in, could happen to any of us. I mean, for example, the thing with the money going missing, it was an accident. You only a couple of steps away from being homeless or imprisoned, depending on circumstances. So I think this sort of gives you more empathy and compassion to the people around you, realize that it could be you.
And would you say the same, Robert? Was that something that, like I said, as a kid when you were watching it, did you just find it relatable? Is that what kind of appealed to you? Or?
In a way, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I no idea why, but I just found it, it plays through almost like the first hour or so almost plays through almost as a documentary of like American life at that time, the 1920s, 1930s. So for me, can I say that's relatable to my life? No, not really. But at the same time, it's that sort of, when I'm watching a film and having an element of escapism, it's like I can, in that moment, I can relate to it and go, I get it. I understand it.
But it's maybe just distant enough in similar way to what we were talking about when we reviewed Citizen Kane. Like, you're interested in this person's life story, but it's not your life. It's distant enough because it's in the past and it's a different country. So it's not like you. I see what you're saying. Cool. Yeah, that makes sense. Lest we, just talk about only the good things, I did want to make a note of some things that people have said is flawed about Capra's direction. So I've kind of touched on a few of these. Like the pacing and the length, some viewers think the setup is too long and spends too long establishing George's life before the crisis. Others see it as necessary. I've kind of talked about my opinion on that, and I'll mention it again in my conclusion. I do think it is. Capra is known for earnestness and sentimentality, which to some people is uplifting. To others, it edges into too kind of sickly sweet. Again, that's something we can debate. And the Pottersville depiction, the dark timeline is deliberately heightened, which some people find to be too exaggerated or over the top, depending on your taste. And do you guys, do you kind of have time for any of these flaws, so to speak? Do you agree with any of them, or do you think they're just being unfair, or just people that don't like the film looking for nitpicks, maybe? And Sandy, I'll come to you first for that one.
Well, I do think, obviously, it's very important, that build up, to see George's struggles, and that all of these decisions to put others first didn't come easy to him, actually. That, he'd been fighting so hard for his dream despite everything getting in the way. And each time he did choose himself there in the beginning, like, well, I am going to leave. There's this beautiful woman that I'm flirting with who obviously likes me, but I've got bigger dreams, until even after his father had the stroke and passed away, he went to the savings and loan, and he was still prepared to leave everything. But then he couldn't ignore that pull any longer. He saw, this is a life I'm supposed to have, and he was pissed. He was so angry.
Yeah. I think that's part of the appeal for me, is that it shows how gripping the film is, that you're kind of rooting for him to get out of there, and every time he kind of stumbles back and something pulls him back into it, you're like, oh no. For those first hour of the movie, you're like, oh dude, I'm so sorry about this.
He didn't hide it at all.
Yeah.
He was so pissed, but he did embrace it. He did have that beautiful family, and they were piece by piece building their dream home together. It's just really so affecting later, and gives context to all those changes in the Potterville scene. I don't think we could do without even a minute of it. And as a child, obviously, the pacing was too long, too boring. I only needed those 3 acts, in very broad strokes. But as an adult, to really, when you're getting into these motivations and stuff, and again, why it's still, as we've all mentioned at some point, it's still a living, breathing classic today, because all those points resonate with being an adult. Yeah,
true. Interesting. What about you then, Angela? Because you kind of obviously first watched this as an adult, so do you agree with any of these kind of flaws and criticisms, or do they kind of not matter overall?
I would have said definitely, if I'd watched it when I was younger, sort of 20-something and younger, I would probably have got bored and just stopped watching it. So I'm glad that I've waited until I'm years old before watching it.
21, we know.
Again, yes. I can appreciate it more. I've lived through similar circumstances, so I've felt the urge to get out and see the world, and then had things preventing me from doing that. So I can understand his frustration, and I think the build up might be slightly too long, but it's not too bad.
I can certainly see that argument. I don't mind it. It's kind of like when, again, I'll come to you in a second, Robert, because it's kind of like when we reviewed Citizen Kane, that I said I can see why people might find it boring, but for me, it just holds my interest and it grips me because I'm interested in this person's life story well enough anyway. I can't necessarily define why. I just think I'm interested in watching it, so I could watch it for another hour, even though that would be far too long, and I'd be like, cut a bit here or there or whatever. So did I ask you, Rob, did you agree with the criticisms, or does it just does the film overshadow it with the good things?
I will still probably even now watch It's a Wonderful Life, once every 2 years, something like that. It is a timeless classic that's got the right pacing all the way through. Yes, it's 2 hours long, but so what? Yeah. It sort of it builds up his life, and it's not as if any parts going through it are sort of throwaway. Everything comes back to it. So it's like the guy who, the chemist, right?
Yes, Mr. Gallagher.
He then features twice then throughout the movie. One in Potterville, and then at the end where he sort of like turns up and says, "Here, have some more dollars," that kind of thing. So
he's there throughout the movie. He's in a few of the background scenes when they're having happy times.
He's all the way through. The guy who owns the restaurant or the bar,
Martini.
martinis. You know, he's there, and then it's like you get a house and here's some bread and some salt, so you live prosperously and all the rest of it. And then everything still comes back. Yeah, it's not as if each scene is that, you know, something happens in it, it's completely thrown away. It's like, oh yeah, that happens. So
no, I agree. Yeah.
It all comes back at the end. It all comes full circle. So for me, it's like, yeah, you can criticize anything at the end of the day, but actually, does it stand by itself as something that you'll come back to and always watch? And to me, the answer is yes.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. I think it sets up, whether it even be like smaller relationships like Bert, Ernie, Violet, or things that'll become important, like setting up the house. You know, I wouldn't lose that scene because it's, you know, it's interesting and it's important to know that that's what Mary wished for, and showing the different attitudes that George has before and after the kind of revelation moment of like, well, why do we have to live in this horrible, drafty old house? We'll all have pneumonia. And then he goes back at the end after seeing how bad things could be. Oh, this beautiful, drafty house. I love it. And kissing like little knob off the stairs that's always coming off, you know. So I'm getting frustrated at it. He's kissing it. Oh, bless you, kind of thing, you know. It's an interesting dichotomy there, which I think you need. So yeah, no, I think we've kind of talked that to death. I was looking for kind of things to note about the direction that I thought were interesting as I was watching the movie, but I always just get caught up watching the film. So I've literally only got two things that I wanted to bring up. First of all, the choreographed scene when they enter the kind of leaky house, when they're tipping water from their hats. It's just such a weird, random, like pseudo Laurel and Hardy choreographed comedy moment that I just really appreciated. And the only other thing I noticed was a very deliberate kind of putting George Bailey in the kind of kids' chair in Potter's office so that he looked really small compared to Potter. It was a very literal expression of like, I will look down on you kind of thing, you know. But yeah, cool. So I'll move to the acting.
That scene, actually, if you have a look, one of the, I think it's used as a paperweight, but there's a sort of a Kaiser's helmet on the desk.
Wow, okay. Wow.
And if you look at the embroidery on the chair that George sits in, it's got an eagle embroidered on it.
The old American.
And both of those are rather symbolic of army.
Oh, yeah. America versus Nazis, absolutely. It's wow, you've got a very keen eye for set design, Angela. I appreciate that. I never would have noticed that, but it's
I'm gonna have to rewatch now.
Absolutely, that's very on the nose, but I appreciate that a lot. Yeah, awesome. So yeah, I'm going to move us on to the acting. I don't want to take too much longer if I can try and avoid it, but I'll just go through it and then I've got a couple of questions about it. So first of all, obviously the lead, James Stewart, playing George Bailey. His raw emotional delivery was unusual for Hollywood leads of the period. He lets himself look frustrated, tired, and even broken. His post-war emotional intensity often gets mentioned. He made the film just after returning from service, and his shift from youthful optimism to anger, frustration, and despair is one of the rawest and least performed roles of the era, as we've kind of mentioned. Yeah, I think it's quite subtle and not overplayed. Pretty perfect for this. Next up, Donna Reed playing Mary Bailey was relatively early in her film career. Many feel that she anchors the film more than she gets credit for. I would agree. She's warm, grounded, emotionally intelligent, where kind of George sometimes isn't. Often the heart of the film. Again, I agree. Her Pottersville Mary portrayal, though, does raise modern viewer talking points when she becomes the tragic spinster librarian cliche, which modern audiences often find dated. Again, sadly, I agree. Next up, Lionel Barrymore playing Mr. Potter. Deliciously nasty, but never quite into full hammy, especially, like I said, compared to some holiday movies and things. He's a near mythic villain, but grounded in a very real kind of cruelty and kind of a masterclass in quiet villainy. No cartoonish outbursts, just the cold entitlement. And my word, I hate the guy. I gotta say, whatever it is that Barrymore's bringing, the way he's playing it, I really do detest him. Supporting performances by the likes of Henry Travers as Clarence, gentle, slightly oddball charm that stops the supernatural thing from feeling a little too ridiculous and cheesy. Thomas Mitchell as Uncle Bailey, we've mentioned, sincere, fragile, sometimes unintentionally heartbreaking. And the whole Bedford Falls ensemble, you know, helps the town feel lived in instead of, like we said, melodramatic kitchen sink sitcom, that kind of thing. Small performances really do help the emotional payoff. And I've also noted I really did feel impressed by the kid actors at the start of the film, because they're the first impression you get of like George, Mary, Violet, etc. And they're really good, especially the young George when he's kind of being selfless and protecting Gower from poisoning, and you know, oh, don't hit me again, don't hurt me again, and then he's, you know, you realize it's done a selfless thing and Gower starts hugging him and stuff. Really good start to the movie, I think, for me. So yeah, I'm going to go and ask then, first of all, who stands out for you in the film and why? Is there anybody that doesn't entirely work? And what relationship or chemistry is the most believable and the best for you? And Angela, I'll come to you first to answer those three questions.
Ooh, I think Mary is the actual standout character. The sort of the quiet stoicism she has all the way through the film, trying to keep the family together, supporting George as much as she can. It is basically the embodiment of what was the 1940s housewife, as we've come to know. So I think she just brings that quality of believability to the whole situation.
Yeah, I can't disagree. Yeah.
George is slightly over the top.
I think, yeah, at times, but I think he does tend to keep it for the moments when he is the most frustrated or angry or whatever. Yeah. It's not, he's not overacting, unless it feels earned and it's for the moment, like the most obvious being the whole coming back to reality and running around screaming, "Merry Christmas, you lovely old savings and loan, Merry Christmas, Bert, Ernie." It's like, okay, you've kind of earned this. It's your victory lap, so I'll give you the slightly big acting. For me anyway, yeah. But no, I'm with you on Mary as well. Like I said, I think I agree with the people that say Donna Reed doesn't get enough credit, and she is kind of the heart and the anchor of a lot of the film. So yeah, what was I going to say? What was the next question then? So is there anyone that doesn't work for you that Angela in that case?
I think maybe Uncle Billy is slightly over the top. I mean, I know that there are eccentrics all through history in all walks of life, but who on earth would have that many animals in a bank or building society?
I never really noticed. I'm always just interested in the quirks, like the little things tied around his finger and stuff to remind him of things. I've kind of known people like that, but yeah, the animals I've never really paid much attention to. Maybe I should have.
Like the squirrel when he's having his when he's searching the office.
Oh yeah. The squirrel comes up and kind of hugs him, and he's breaking down at one point as well. Yeah.
What am I watching? Is it a Disney movie?
That's fair enough. That's a fair point.
Like eagerly.
Oh wow. And is there any kind of relationship chemistry wise? It doesn't have to be romantic. Is the romance better, or is the antagonistic relationship, or George and Clarence? Is there one particular relationship that works best for you in the film?
Ooh. Bert and Ernie, actually.
Actually, yeah. Yeah. It's kind of it's a sweet moment when they start singing for their kind of impromptu honeymoon and stuff as well. They work together really well. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
A good sort of best buddies type of vibe to them that they've got going.
For sure. Yeah, definitely. What about you then, Rob? Same three questions. First of all, who stands out and why?
I'd have to agree with Angela in terms of Donna Reed. She is the stable influence throughout. Mm-hmm. You would kind of question though, what on earth do you see in it?
That's what I meant. Yeah, I did say that. There are times, but I can see it a lot of the time. But I also think if the film were made today, people would really want her to stand up for herself more against his more mean tirades. Although she kind of does. She's like, "Why must you torture the kids?" at one point. And, I think that's just a product of its time, sadly.
So that to me is very special. That racking my brains in terms of any of the bits or the acting that I wasn't keen on. Mm-hmm. But it's actually the scene. It's the two actors. I don't think they're actually named. When they're at the dance and one of this guy's like dancing with Donna Reed and obviously George Bailey comes across and goes, "Hey, I'm going to dance with her instead." So he's looking all glum. And then a guy comes up and says, "Hey, do you know what we're standing, what we're above? We're above a swimming pool and I've got the keys." It's only there for a couple of seconds, but the acting between those two characters or those two actors is rubbish.
Was there a particular relationship or chemistry that you thought was the best?
Not really. Without wanting, I think the No, not really. It's to me, it's just all gels into one lovely film. You know,
Yeah.
You could say Potter and is it Uncle Billy or is it Clarence? The guy with the knots on his fingers.
Oh, that's Uncle Billy. Yeah.
Uncle Billy, yeah. Yeah, they only do that one piece where it's like, you know, you're evil, no one likes you, ha ha ha, we've managed to make a success of this and you're still the bank, it's rubbish. That little scene between the two of them, it was he's quite good. But no, I mean, I can't really pick out. I mean, yes, you can say Bert and Ernie and stuff like that, but to me, the entire thing just gels perfectly.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Cool. No, that scene is good because it's also the scene, like I mentioned, where Uncle Billy says not every heel was in Germany or Japan, which is a very kind of telling dig, I think, at Potter as well. So, yeah, cool. Sandy, same questions. Do you want me to reiterate them for you?
Well, let's see if I get them. So, as far as who stands out to me, I would also have to agree that it was Mary, Donna Reed's Mary, just as being the heart of the movie, kind of grounding George, even though he, life kind of grounded him, but as far as grounding him to the family and what the meaning of life is, and how she was literally the one building that home. She was putting up the wallpaper, just really being the heart and soul of that home. As far as anyone who didn't work for me, I can't say that anyone didn't work for me. And as far as who, any chemistry between two actors, and I agree actually wholeheartely with Rob that everything just kind of comes together so well, everybody's interactions. But I would have to say that I really did appreciate Lillian Randolph as Annie, and how a mere 6-7 years after Gone with the Wind, how much she's not a caricature in this film, and how warmly she reacts with the original Mrs. Bailey, not the one he confuses later for his wife.
Yeah.
But Beulah Bondi, the mother there, and just how warm she is, and how well she pulled off that coldness later when she'd lost her husband and had to run a lodging, and how cold she was later, and just pulling off those two different characters, I think were probably more different than any of the others in the two realities.
I agree. I think all those small roles are really good, and I shout out to definitely, like I said, the mum and dad of the Bailey family, and even like I said, Violet is a really good background portrayal. And as you said, Annie's really good because she's not a caricature, and she could have been a potential 1940s, why have you got this black lady working for you kind of thing, but she just feels like part of the family, and she gets some of the funnier lines that you laugh at, like, about time one of you guys told them that you love him kind of thing, and what kind of a guy he is. And then at the very end, when she comes in, I was saving this money for a divorce if I ever got married, kind of thing. It's just great. She steals that little moment with the money and everything. So yeah.
And then as far as really subtle shout out, I did love that guy's reaction when Clarence and George are in there warming up their clothes, and he reveals that he's an angel, and that guy just is like, I don't want none of this angel business. He just backs away and leaves.
Yeah. There's a few like that in the Pottersville, as I said, the ones that act very differently, because the guy that owns the bar, that's like his friendly mate, is not Martini, but the other guy owns the bar in the alternate world, and he's taking the mick out with him, and oh, look at this, I'm giving out wigs. Oh, he's getting close in the tail on the thing. Because he's taking the mick out of it. It's just a sort of a weird, oh, you're mean, but it's kind of amusing. But, yeah, cool. Well, I'm going to move to the VFX production design as quick as I can next. I don't have much to say, thankfully. So just wanted to point out that Bedford Falls was a fully built town. They constructed an entire 4-acre main street set with working buildings, traffic, and long sight lines, which was rare for films at the time and creates a very grounded, lived-in feel. The Pottersville makeover is notable because it was the same set as Bedford Falls, but transformed entirely by lighting with neon, busier layouts. And I think it shows how little changes can create a totally different vibe. There's some nice subtle effects work, matte paintings for establishing shots, miniatures for some of the town transitions, and soft but effective day for night shooting, which doesn't always work, but I think does here. As I said, lighting, Bedford Falls being soft and warm, Pottersville being harsh, high contrast, almost neo-noir, I think sells the two versions of the world. And it feels like a place that actually exists. And of course, I did want to mention the Clarence vanishing effect, which we don't think about nowadays, but it's kind of easy to forget this was 1947, as you said, and yet that is so effective and just works really well, even though it's a very basic effect. So, yeah, does anything stand out to you guys from that you wanted to agree or disagree with?
I think, given the age that it was filmed in, the effects are really good.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
They didn't have the same technology as we have. You can see what was blue or green screen, whichever they used back at the time. You know, with people in the backgrounds, you can see that, and then you can see other bits where they're obviously on set in a studio. But the way that it's done, it works together nicely. I mean, even the title, where it's just pages.
I love that. Yeah.
Glittered and things like that. I thought that was really nice. It's basically sitting down for an adult story, a bedtime story about the angel. I thought that was really effective. I like the way they did that.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I also like the Christmassy kind of decorations on that, because people, there's not a lot of Christmas sentiment at the start of the movie, but the fact that it opens with the little, like you said, almost fairy tale book with Santa on it and the holly and the snowman and the Christmas things is really sweet.
It's always been there in my head. But
what?
How on earth do you put a dance floor over the top of a swimming pool?
That is actually real.
I'm sure
it is a real thing.
But it's fascinated me the entire life since.
I love that. Yeah.
Because how far does it come back? Because it's like concertina effect. You can tell I've been losing sleep over this. But if you move out, it's like you'd have to have equal proportion. I mean, what size was it? A 25-meter standard Olympic? What? So
that saved them another building.
So not to the snow effect and all the rest of it and the lighting there. That swimming pool is and the dance floor over the top has plagued my life. But,
yeah,
and yes, it's real. It's real.
Yeah, it's a real thing. On the same note, I've got to say it's the one moment of unrealism for me, because every time I watch that scene, I'm just like, would you really not notice it behind you? The way everyone's like, oh, and he just goes, oh, we must be really good. And I'm like, come on, you'd have to be pretty blind and unaware not to notice the entire floor opening up behind you. You know what I mean? But it's allowed for the moment, I suppose, the emotionality of it. Anything that you wanted to mention, Sandy, before we move on?
Just that I loved how the town felt so real. Like, I think it was helped by them showing the map of the town growing, especially with Bailey, his neighborhood that he was instrumental in creating.
Oh yeah, the Bailey Park that he makes.
Yeah, but I just love how it was like, it's like a place you could run through and you would know which way Bailey's house was and which way that neighborhood was and where the savings and loan was. And then additionally, just when he's running through that street, that the lighting, Christmas lights being strung across the street and parallel to the street, it was just so beautiful. I did not actually notice what you had said. I guess that's just it being in black and white and not in 4K on my TV. I didn't notice that juxtaposition between the original town and then later when it was Potterville, the more sharper contrast. What I did notice was like the more in air quotes sinful establishments that lined the streets, but definitely did not recognize that change in lighting. I missed it.
Yeah, so I'm going to move to the music and sound next. Again, I don't have a lot to say. The score is by Dmitry Tiomkin, and it's used quite sparingly, especially compared to later Christmas films. Capra, because of his style, often lets scenes breathe with natural sound instead of wall-to-wall music, which I think makes the emotional moments feel a little bit bigger when the music does arrive. And of course, there is a use of, as well as the original score, familiar tunes and well-known melodies like Buffalo Gals, Hark the Herald Angels Sing, which I think helps to root the film in the familiar, cozy Americana and the Christmas setting. If there's nothing else, I'll move to the next section then, which is our critics' response. As you'll know, if you're a regular Cinema Classics listener, I don't ask the audience for thoughts on classic films because it would seem a little redundant sometimes. So I tend to go for a critic's response. I haven't really done that much of an in-depth one for this. It's actually quite short because I could have written reams upon reams of what critics have said, but I tried to keep it brief. So let me start by saying that, as we've kind of already mentioned, although it was nominated for 5 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, It's a Wonderful Life initially received mixed reviews and was unsuccessful at the box office. Capra was seen by some studios as having lost his ability to produce popular, financially successful films, but It's a Wonderful Life is now considered to be one of the greatest films of all time and among the best Christmas films. In 2002, Channel 4 in the United Kingdom ranked It's a Wonderful Life as the 7th greatest film ever made of all films in its poll about the 100 greatest films. The channel airs this film to British viewers annually on Christmas Eve. The film was included by the Vatican, believe it or not, in a list of important films compiled in 1995 under the category of values.
Sorry, it's the fact that
I know, right?
His Holiness went, yes, perfect.
Perfect values, yes. Don't tell that FBI guy that didn't like it, but there we go. The February 2020 issue of New York Magazine lists It's a Wonderful Life as among the best movies that lost Best Picture at the Oscars. And again, if you're a regular listener of the podcast, take a drink because in 1990, It's a Wonderful Life became one of 25 films selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress for being deemed as culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. And I'm going to leave the last word on this to our old friend Orson Welles, who played Mr. Potter in the made-for-television remake It Happened One Christmas. He was asked what he thought of this movie and simply replied, "There's no way of hating that movie." So, yeah, strong praise, I think. So, yeah, with that out the way, then we're going to dive into our thoughts. We've heard what the critics think, but what do we think? Starting with our favorite character, moment, and line of the movie, as I always do. Let's see, we'll come to you first, Sandy, because I'm going to go clockwise. So who's your favorite character? What's your favorite moment or scene? And what's your favorite line of the movie?
My favorite character is gonna have to be the more obvious choice of George. His arc is just incredible, and just while Mary is, like we say, the heart of the movie, his emotions throughout the whole movie are just so real and pulling you in until he even says that line, I'm worth more dead than alive. Like if it hadn't been for me, everyone would be a lot better off. And just that gravity and having that feeling, and then to also show that joy at the end of realizing that he has everything he needs, and it not only, is it pretty cool, it's actually great, it's the best thing ever. And so he just really resonated most with me. And as far as moment, we've danced around it a little bit, but actually that swimming pool being uncovered and them falling into the water and everybody jumping in, and even how he continued to dance, obviously winning.
Yeah.
And just everybody's willingness to join in, and the joy in that moment. It's kind of one of those you had to be there moments. Like none of these people would be able to describe how fun or how funny that was to anybody who wasn't there, and how that moment was captured as just absolute pure innocent joy, I think, was just a moment that really stuck out for me. And then as far as favorite line, I think it's got to be Clarence's when he says, strange, isn't it? Each man's life touches so many other lives. When he isn't around, he leaves an awful hole, doesn't he? And, that just kind of pulls together everything in the end, and shows Capra's main theme of every single person is important.
Yeah. Awesome choices. I can't disagree with any of that. So, yeah. Moving along to you then, Rob, did you have a favorite character, favorite scene or moment, and favorite line?
Clarence.
Good call. Okay.
He's got a job on his hands, hasn't he? And he's so desperate to get his wings this time round. And he manages to do it. I think the bit that makes me chuckle is when they're in Nick's bar, and he said, "Well, what do you want to drink?" And he's like, "Oh, I'll have a flaming rum punch," which I've always thought, I wonder what that's going to be like.
Yeah.
He then says, "No, I don't want that. I want mulled wine, heavy on cinnamon, light on cloves." And the response back is like, "Look, we serve hard liquor
Listen,
for guys
buddy.
who want to get drunk fast. We'll have none of that silliness. Thank you very much."
No umbrellas here.
Exactly. It's sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
I actually want to go to that bar because I don't want all the frippery. I just want straight beer, and that's it. That's all I want.
Listen, buddy, I'm gonna pop you in the chop. That guy, that Nick.
Exactly.
Well, that's a pub, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, fair enough. So was that your line as well? Just the whole,
It is that,
Listen,
that whole scene. To me, is great. It's got good comedy timing, and it's got a good story there for people, for young'uns to say, look, if you're going to go to a pub, that's what you're doing. You're not doing any other silliness. Thank you very much.
It's a nice contrast, as you say, because I think Martini's is probably a bit more kind of cosmopolitan and like, oh, you can go there, have some cocktails, whatever. Whereas Nick's bar in Pottersville is just like, listen, buddy, we serve hard liquor to get people hammered. What do you want?
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool. What about you then, Angela? Favorite character, favorite moment or scene, and favorite line?
I think favorite character, although he's completely unbelievable with the whole animals thing, it's Uncle Billy. I mean,
yay!
Comedy value to him. I know a few people that are sort of similar in character, shall we say?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think he was my favorite character. Favorite scene would be, I think, when George and Clarence are in that hut with the other guy and they're drying the clothes and reveals that he's an angel, and the other guy was like, "Nope, I'm out of here." This guy's screwed. So yeah, that was my favorite scene. As for a favorite line, I don't think I actually have one.
Okay. That's fine, because I have like 4. So. I'll mention mine, and you can just take one of those as yours. Yeah, you can claim one when I get to mine. But yeah, I kind of cheated a bit because my favorite character, I have kind of picked one. Although I don't love the moments when he acts mean in response to understandable frustration and stress, it is still George. I think all his selfless acts and helping the people of the community, as well as building Bailey Park, and the genuine care and love he shows to Zuzu, show his real character, and it's to be admired. My favorite scene, again, I've kind of cheated. It's Christmas, so I've given myself 2. So the obvious one would be the joyous kind of "Merry Christmas, everybody run," and the ending, everything leading on from that. But that feels like a bit of a cheat. So the moment that I really did like and appreciated is when the savings and loan stays open after that horrible kind of worst day ever with the stock market crash, and they prevent Potter from getting the place and sort of say like, "Oh, we're $2, we're getting to stay open. These better have a family before long," and whatever. And that leads straight into Mary giving George the kind of honeymoon they couldn't have at the house and everything. So I really thought that was a sweet thing. And again, it's Christmas, so allow me to cheat when I mention my favorite line, because I actually have 3, not 4. So you can take either "Every time a bell rings, an angel gets its wings," which again I thought was quite obvious. For the kind of impact that I mentioned earlier, "Every man on that transport died. Harry wasn't there to save them because you weren't there to save Harry," which I think is very succinct. And the one that always gets me at the very end, "To my big brother George, the richest man in town." So you can have one of those 3, Angela. Which one would you like for your favorite?
Well, I think, befitting my name, I think we'll go with the "Every time a bell rings." Oh,
sweet. Love it. So yeah, then all that remains is for us to give our conclusion and our scores out of 5 stars. Haha, Christmassy heavenly ones this time, as we always do. And again, I'll just go around clockwise. Why not? Sandy, we'll come to you first if you don't mind.
I gave this film a 4.5, and
okay.
I just really think it is a good Christmas classic. And again, as we mentioned before, it doesn't feel dated. It has a very well-developed, well-formed story from beginning to end. Like we talked about, you can't really do without some of these scenes because they give context and gravity to later situations and the message of the whole film. I think the message of the film is really good, just executed really well. All the characters just have great chemistry together. And I really love the film. And though we touched on it a bit, the comedy in it is really unmatched. Even in the beginning, some of George's lines like, say brainless, don't you know where coconuts come from? Or a pox upon me for a clumsy lout. And even scurvy little spider. I mean, just so many that just go so quick. So from the dialogue to the production design, the warm feel of the home, of the town, the writing, the characters, the plot, everything works really so well together.
Awesome. Yeah, fair enough. Rob, over to you then. Conclusion and score, if you don't mind.
5 stars for me. It's one of those, to me, a good film, and this might be probably a wrong word. You can watch it over and over again, and it just washes over you. It's like a nice duvet or a nice blanket. It's like, this is good, and it doesn't matter whether it's a sci-fi. It doesn't matter whether it's a warfare. It's just this is nice. I'm feeling comfortable with it, and I'd say that It's a Wonderful Life. All the different little storylines that go with it, all the acting that's in it and stuff like that is beautifully done, beautifully executed, and yeah, I'd give it 5 stars every time.
Awesome, brilliant. So over to you then, Angela, for your conclusion and score.
Well, as the others have said, it's a beautifully crafted film. It doesn't feel that it's aged terribly at all. It really is relevant in modern times. Although good luck getting kids these days sitting down and watching it. The TikTok generation.
Yeah.
But if I had been around in 1947 when it was out, I would have given it 5 stars, because it is a really well put together film. The storyline, the sets, the effects, the acting, it all works wonderfully. Nowadays, with just a couple of little niggles that I have with it, I'd say 4.8.
Okay. It's normally Sandy that goes with a random number in between, but I love that we still have that going on. Awesome. So, yeah. Well, my conclusion, again, it's not going to sound very naturalistic because I always write it down so I can remember it. But I said, if you're not feeling emotional and life affirmed by the end of this film, then honestly, there may be no hope for you. And even on that alone, its legacy would be enough. But this film is far more than hollow sentiment. Some may complain about the pacing or the length, but for me, every single scene earns the emotional payoff. Knowing the people who come to George's aid in the end, Martini, Gower, Violet, Annie, Billy, makes it all the more powerful, reinforcing why George mattered to each of them. The central be careful what you wish for concept is nothing short of genius. It's been imitated countless times because it so effectively shows that even the smallest lives can have the biggest impact. It's Capra's masterpiece. His direction is solid and occasionally breathtaking. The performance is extraordinary, and there's even a beautifully realized romance woven seamlessly into the story. This is a film that proves the ties we share with others are what truly define us, a celebration of life, love, and the connections that matter most. The kind of film that makes you glad for the life you have and the people in it. Every moment reminds us that every life leaves a mark, and its timeless, heartfelt storytelling is unforgettable. The gift of life is something to be grateful for, so watch this and remember it when you're with friends and family this Christmas or any time. A true cinematic gift from the heavens. I also gave it 5 stars out of 5 because it's just a film I love and have always appreciated. The flaws, I think, are overtaken by the sentiment that really matters. So, yeah. We put all of those scores together, divide by the 4 of us here, gives a final score for It's a Wonderful Life of 4.8 out of 5, which pretty brilliant. You can't really argue with that.
Appropriate,
it's as close to 5 as you can get. And yeah, awesome stuff. And so, as a ringing bell signifies that another angel has earned its wings, we leave the Bailey family and the richest man in town to enjoy their Christmas as we look forward to celebrating ours. And it just remains for me to thank all of our fantastic guests for joining us here. First of all, Angela, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me once again. I hope everybody has a wonderful Christmas and a fantastic New Year.
Absolutely. And thanks for bringing your keen eye to things as well, because lots of things that we missed. So brilliant. And is there anywhere people can find you online? Anything you wanted to plug?
You can find me as Angela Grant on Facebook, and then I do have a couple of Instagram things, but they're more to do with certain German bands.
Yes, I know you're a big Rammstein fan. Yes. Awesome. So if anybody else likes Rammstein, there's your girl. Awesome. And yeah, Rob, again, thanks for coming on another Cinema Classics, looking at another 40s black and white gem.
Yes, go to Sandy. I'm just trying to find something to plug. So
okay, no worries. I'll move on then. Sandy, thanks again for joining us for too many times to count now.
Did you say too many?
Oh, too many times to count. No, I'm certainly not complaining.
Okay. No, I really enjoyed this one, and I may not have watched it this year, so I'm so glad that I actually got, in ages, it's been that I actually sat down and watched it beginning to end and appreciated it more differently. So, and just to get to talk about it with everyone, I really appreciate that. And the only thing I have to plug is your James Stewart impression. It is so good. I always sound like Cher when I'm trying. So when I want to do a Cher impression, I actually do a Jimmy Stewart impression, and it comes out right.
Do you believe in life after love, Sandy? I'm asking you. I got you, babe. Anyway, fair enough. No, that's cool. I'm glad you did get a chance to watch the unabridged version and appreciate you finding it for us. So yeah, Rob, are you ready to plug whatever you wanted to plug for us?
When's this coming out, by the way?
Oh, it'll be December the 22nd.
Oh,
we missed something.
Too late. Oh well. So yeah, you can probably find me on Threads, trolling any sort of right wingers, fascists, that kind of thing.
The Mr. Potters of the world.
the Mr. Potters of the world. I was going to plug the theatre company that my daughter runs, the Noisy Cow Community Theatre. We're actually doing a Christmas Carol at the Huddersfield Parish Church, but we would have done that by now because it's on the 19th and 20th. But there you go. Never mind.
Oh, well, fair enough. Well, hopefully it went really well and you're having a fantastic
I hope so, because I'm playing Scrooge.
Oh, okay. Cool.
And I'm
Are you going to take inspiration from Michael Caine?
I am actually a little bit.
Yes.
I am actually a little bit. The problem is though I can't do like a semi-posh Cockney accent. So it's going to be an angry Yorkshire accent, unfortunately.
You can always find us by following the link tree in the episode's description. It's not a Christmas tree, it's a link tree. And you can find all of our social medias via that, or you can always go to Letterboxd, follow the podcast on there, or follow me personally to find all of the various things I'm reviewing when I'm not on the podcast itself. Yeah, you can also now join us to become a channel member for as little as $2.99 a month and get some cool perks, extra emojis, early access to episodes, uncut episodes, or a chance to choose a film for us to review. And do check out our merch store, which is also now live on TeePublic. Just follow the links in the descriptions or any of the products that will be tagged on here. They make great Christmas gifts, although you've only got like 3 days at this point to potentially get one. So I doubt they'll be here on time, but you know, the sentiment's still there. So yeah, that is... Yeah, exactly. And that's it for the Silver Screen podcast for this year. But Whovians, we still have a special pre-New Year's treat for you. On December the 28th, Hit or Miss Hutrek will be dropping a deep dive into the Jodie Whittaker festive special, Eve of the Daleks. And fear not, for we will be straight back in the new year, January the 6th, in fact, when DK takes a cult classics deep dive into a unique, trippy musical piece of film art and asks if we don't need no education. Clearly you do, you've just used a double negative. But anyway, until next time, remember, you matter more than you know, you're doing better than you think, and no one is a failure who has friends.
Ooh.
Good night, and Merry Christmas!
You have been listening to the Silver Screen Cinema Classics Show, part of the Silver Screen Podcast. Cinema Classics is hosted, produced, researched, scripted, and edited by Michael Wilson. Follow us on social media, our YouTube channel, or wherever else you get your podcasts. Links to all of these places can be found via the link tree in each episode's description. This podcast is a Media Matters original production, created by Mike Wilson. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share far and wide. Join us again next time, and hopefully this could be the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Here's looking at you, kid. Cut!